The most powerful man in Miami just walked into Eclipse Lounge, and every woman in the room turned to look. Every woman except one. Nadine Carter stood behind the bar, her crisp white shirt tucked perfectly into her black vest, her hair pulled back in an elegant low bun that showed off the graceful curve of her neck. She didn't even glance up from her work. Her diamond stud earrings caught the amber light from the pendant lamps above the bar as she focused entirely on the cocktail in front of her, measuring out the whiskey with the precision of a surgeon performing a delicate operation. She poured the amber liquid from her crystal mixing glass into an ornate rocks glass, watching the way the ice caught the liquid and held it. Her movements were fluid, practiced, almost hypnotic. 3 years behind this bar had turned her into an artist, and she took pride in every single drink that left her hands. Chan Wu sat 3 feet away from her, his charcoal suit tailored so perfectly it looked like it had been sewn directly onto his body. His gold chain caught the light against his black shirt, and his watch, a piece that cost more than most people's annual salary, gleamed as he leaned forward slightly on the leather-topped bar. He was watching her like she was the most fascinating thing he had ever seen in his 31 years on this earth. The glass of bourbon in front of him sat completely untouched. The ice had begun to melt, diluting the expensive whiskey he had ordered 20 minutes ago. He didn't care about the drink. He had never cared about the drink. He cared about the woman who made it. And she treated him exactly like she treated every other customer who sat at her bar. She treated him like he was nobody special, like he was just another man with money and expectations, like his power meant absolutely nothing within the 3 feet of polished mahogany that she controlled. Nadine finished garnishing the cocktail with a perfect twist of orange peel and slid it across the bar to a waiting customer without even looking up to acknowledge his presence. She moved on to the next order, her hands already reaching for bottles, her mind already calculating ratios and timing. Chan Wu continued to watch. "Before we continue with this story, I need you to do something for me. I pour my heart into these stories, and it genuinely hurts when people watch without subscribing. Please, just take 1 second and subscribe. It's free, and it means the world to me. Also, like the video and drop a comment telling me which city you are watching from. I want to know where all my amazing viewers are located. Please do well to subscribe now." Now, let's continue. Nadine Carter was 28 years old, and she had one rule that she never broke. Never mix business with pleasure. She had been the head bartender at Eclipse Lounge in downtown Miami for 3 years now. The club was known throughout South Florida for attracting a specific type of clientele: celebrities who wanted to be seen, athletes who wanted to disappear, and powerful men who controlled the city from the shadows while pretending to be legitimate businessmen. Nadine knew exactly who Chan Wu was. Everyone in Miami knew. You couldn't live in this city and work in nightlife without hearing his name whispered in back rooms and VIP sections. He ran the Korean syndicate that controlled half the nightlife in South Florida. His organization had its hands in everything from real estate development to import-export businesses that no one asked too many questions about. He was 31 years old, dangerously handsome in a way that made women lose their common sense, and worth more money than most people could count even if they had a lifetime to try. Women threw themselves at him every single night. Models with legs that went on forever, actresses who wanted connections, socialites who wanted the thrill of danger without any of the actual consequences. They all wanted his attention. They all wanted to be the one who caught his eye. Chan Wu owned Eclipse Lounge. He owned 5 other clubs across Miami Beach, each one more exclusive than the last. His organization had legitimate businesses on paper and less legitimate operations underneath, and everyone who worked for him knew to keep their mouths shut and their eyes focused on their own jobs. But in all the time Nadine had worked at Eclipse, she had never seen him sit at this particular bar. He had private rooms upstairs. He had VIP sections with bottle service and women who were paid to make him feel important. He had never once lowered himself to sit among the regular customers at the main bar. Until tonight. Something had changed. He had finally noticed her. And Nadine had absolutely no intention of noticing him back. What Nadine didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that her carefully constructed life was about to fall apart. Her younger brother Terrence owed money to a rival organization called the Vega Cartel, $50,000. Terrence had gotten involved in underground gambling 6 months ago, convinced that his luck would turn around, convinced that the next hand would be the one that changed everything. Instead, he had lost everything. His savings, his car, his dignity. And now he owed money. He could never pay back to people who didn't believe in second chances. The Vega Cartel had given him 2 weeks to come up with the cash, 2 weeks to somehow produce $50,000 that he didn't have. After that, they had made it very clear what would happen. They would kill him. They would make it slow. And they would make sure everyone in Miami knew what happened to people who didn't pay their debts. Nadine didn't know any of this yet. She was about to find out. And when she did, her life would collide with Chan Woo's in ways she never expected, never wanted, and couldn't possibly prepare for. Chan Woo had been watching Nadine for 6 months. He had cameras in every corner of his club. That was just standard security for a man in his position. But somewhere along the line, he had started paying more attention to the footage from the main bar than anywhere else. He knew her schedule by heart. He knew she worked Tuesday through Saturday, always arriving 30 minutes early to prep her station. He knew she took the bus home to Little Haiti every night at 2 a.m. because she refused to take the car service the club offered to employees. He knew she was saving money for culinary school. He had overheard her talking to another bartender about her dreams of opening a small restaurant someday, somewhere far from Miami, somewhere where she could build something that was entirely hers. He knew she had a brother who was about to get himself killed. And tonight, after 6 months of watching from a distance, Chan Woo had decided to make his move. Not because he wanted to save her, not because he was a good man with noble intentions, but because he wanted her to owe him everything. Because he wanted to be the one she couldn't ignore. Chan Woo came back the next night. And the night after that. He sat in the same spot at the bar, ordered the same bourbon, and watched Nadine work with an intensity that made the other bartenders nervous. He never tried to flirt with her. He never made inappropriate comments or tried to slide his business card across the bar like so many other men did. He just watched. And it made Nadine uncomfortable in a way she couldn't quite explain. The other bartenders whispered about her during shift changes. They said she was crazy for ignoring him. They said any woman in Miami would kill to have Chan Woo's attention focused on them for even 5 minutes. They said she was throwing away an opportunity that most people would never get. But Nadine had seen what happened to women who got involved with powerful men. Her own mother had been one of those women. Lorraine Carter had been beautiful and full of life when she met Nadine's father. He had been a mid-level player in the Miami drug scene, not powerful enough to be truly dangerous, but powerful enough to make promises he had no intention of keeping. He had swept Lorraine off her feet with expensive gifts and whispered promises of a future that would never come. Then he had left. He had chosen his empire, such as it was, over his family. He had disappeared into the streets and never looked back, leaving Lorraine to raise 2 children alone in one of the roughest neighborhoods in Miami. Lorraine had spent the rest of her life waiting for him to come back. She had died still waiting, her heart broken into pieces that never quite fit back together. Nadine had been 19 years old when she buried her mother. She had sworn on that grave that she would never make the same mistake. She would never let a man's power blind her to his nature. She would never wait for someone who had already shown her exactly who he was. On the 4th night, Chan Woo finally spoke more than just his drink order. The bar was slower than usual for a Thursday. The summer heat had driven most tourists to beachside bars where they could feel the ocean breeze, leaving Eclipse with only its regulars and a few scattered groups of young professionals pretending they could afford the bottle prices. Nadine was mixing a complicated tiki drink for a couple celebrating their anniversary when Chan Woo's voice cut through the ambient music. "Where did you learn to do that?" Nadine didn't look up. She kept her eyes on the drink, layering the different colored rums with practiced precision. "Do what?" "Make drinks. You move like you've been doing this your whole life." She finished the cocktail with a flourish of an orchid garnish and slid it across the bar to the waiting couple before finally turning her attention to Chan Woo. Even then, she didn't quite meet his eyes. She started wiping down her station, keeping her hands busy. "I taught myself," she said. "YouTube videos mostly, after I dropped out of college." Chan Woo leaned forward slightly. "Why did you drop out?" Nadine's jaw tightened. She recognized the question for what it was, an attempt to learn more about her, to find weaknesses he could exploit. Men like him always had angles, always had reasons for their questions. "That's none of your business," she said flatly. To her surprise, Chan Woo smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger and almost approachable, almost human. "I like that you're not afraid of me," he said. Nadine finally looked him directly in the eyes. His gaze was dark and intense, and she refused to be the first one to look away. "I'm not afraid of anything," she said. She slid his untouched bourbon closer to him, a subtle reminder that he was a customer and she was an employee, and that was the only relationship they would ever have. Then she walked away to serve another customer at the other end of the bar. Chan Woo watched her go, that smile still playing at the corners of his mouth. Behind him, his second-in-command June approached. June was a large man with a scar running down the left side of his face, a souvenir from a business negotiation that had gone sideways 5 years ago. He leaned close to Chan Woo's ear. "We found Terrence Carter," June said quietly. "The Vega cartel is planning to collect in 5 days." Chan Woo's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something calculating, something cold. "Bring him to the warehouse," he said. "I want to meet the bartender's brother personally." June hesitated. What should I tell him? Chan Woo took a sip of his bourbon, finally, and let the whiskey burn down his throat. He watched Nadine across the bar, watched the way she moved with confidence and grace, watched the way she treated every customer with the same professional distance. Tell him his debt just got bought by someone far more dangerous than the Vega cartel. Please do well to subscribe if you haven't done so, like the video, comment where you're watching from as well. Thank you. Terrence Carter was 24 years old, and he had never been more terrified in his entire life. 2 men in black suits had picked him up from his apartment in Overtown just after midnight. They hadn't explained where they were taking him or why. They had simply opened the back door of a black SUV and waited for him to get in, their expressions making it clear that he didn't have a choice. Terrence had spent the entire drive convinced that he was going to die. The Vega cartel had found him early. They were going to make an example of him. He would disappear into the Everglades like so many other men who had crossed the wrong people in this city. Instead, he found himself in a warehouse near the port of Miami, sitting across from the most notorious man in South Florida. Chan Woo sat in a leather chair that had been set up in the middle of the empty space, his legs crossed, his expression completely unreadable. Behind him, a wall of windows showed the Miami skyline glittering in the darkness. Shipping containers were stacked around the perimeter of the warehouse, creating the impression of walls within walls. Terrence's hands were shaking. He pressed them against his thighs, trying to steady himself, trying to remember how to breathe. "Do you know who I am?" Chan Woo asked. Terrence nodded. Everyone knew. "Then you know that I don't waste my time with small players." Chan Woo uncrossed his legs and leaned forward. "You owe the Vega cartel $50,000. As of 1 hour ago, you now owe that money to me." Terrence felt the blood drain from his face. "I don't understand." "I bought your debt, which means the Vega cartel no longer has any claim on your life." Chan Woo paused, letting that sink in. "You should be thanking me." "What do you want?" Terrence's voice cracked. "I don't have the money, I don't have anything, I can't." "I don't want your money." The words hung in the air between them. Terrence waited, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. "I want access to your sister," Chan Woo said. Terrence was on his feet before he even realized he had moved. "No, absolutely not. Whatever you're thinking, the answer is no." 2 of Chan Woo's men stepped forward, but Chan Woo held up a hand to stop them. He looked almost amused by Terrence's outburst. "Sit down," he said calmly. "Nadine has sacrificed everything for me." Terrence's voice was shaking with a mixture of fear and rage. "She gave up her future so that I could have a chance at one. She works herself to the bone 6 nights a week just to keep us afloat. I would rather die than let anyone hurt her." Chan Wu laughed. It was not a cruel laugh, but it wasn't exactly kind either. "Sit down," he repeated, "and let me explain what I actually want." Terrence remained standing for a long moment, his fists clenched at his sides. Then, slowly, he sank back into his chair. "I don't want to hurt Nadine," Chan Wu said. "Quite the opposite, actually." He paused, and something in his expression shifted, became almost vulnerable for a fraction of a second before hardening again. "I want to marry her." Terrence stared at him. "You're insane." "Perhaps," Chan Wu shrugged. "But I'm also serious. Here are my terms. Your debt will be completely erased. The Vega cartel will never touch you again. I'll make sure of that personally. In exchange, you will convince Nadine to attend a private dinner with me. Just one dinner, nothing more. And if she refuses, then I will let her go." Chan Wu's voice was steady. "If she meets with me and decides she wants nothing to do with me, I will respect her decision. Your debt will still be erased. You will still be protected. I am not asking you to sell your sister. I am asking you to give me a chance to earn her attention." Terrence shook his head slowly. "Why don't you just ask her yourself? You own the club where she works. You could have demanded anything you wanted from her by now." Chan Wu stood and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. The Miami skyline reflected in the glass, all those glittering lights hiding all that darkness underneath. "I have been watching your sister for 6 months," he said quietly. 6 months, and she has never once looked at me the way other women do. She doesn't see my money or my power. She doesn't see an opportunity or a threat. She looks at me like I am ordinary, like I am just another man sitting at her bar." He turned to face Terrence, and for the first time, his carefully controlled expression cracked. "That terrifies me more than any rival organization ever has." Terrence went home that night in a daze. He sat in his empty apartment for hours, staring at the wall, trying to process what had just happened. The most powerful man in Miami wanted his sister, wanted her badly enough to buy a $50,000 debt just for the chance to have dinner with her. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of thing that Nadine had spent her entire adult life trying to avoid. But the alternative was death. Not just his death. The Vega cartel would come for Nadine too, eventually. They would use her to get to him, to make him suffer before they finally ended it. He had already received photos of her apartment building, shots taken from across the street showing her front door. They knew where she lived. They knew her schedule. They had made it very clear that his debt was her debt too. At 3 a.m., Terrence picked up his phone and called his sister. His voice was shaking when she answered. "Dine, I need to see you. Right now, it's important." He could hear the concern in her voice, the way she immediately switched from sleepy to alert. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, He took a deep breath. "I've done something terrible. And the only way out involves a man you've sworn to never get close to. Please do well to subscribe if you haven't done so, like the video, comment where you're watching from as well. Thank you." Nadine met Terrence at a diner in Little Havana at 6 a.m., just as the sun was beginning to paint the Miami skyline in shades of orange and pink. She hadn't slept. She had gone straight from Eclipse to the bus that would take her to her brother, her mind racing through every possible scenario. Terrence sounded scared in a way she hadn't heard since they were children. That fear in his voice had kept her awake for the entire bus ride. The diner was mostly empty. Just a few early morning workers grabbing coffee before heading to construction sites or cleaning jobs. Nadine slid into the booth across from her brother and wrapped her hands around a cup of coffee that had already gone cold by the time she finished listening to his story. Terrence told her everything. The gambling, the debt, the Vega cartel, the warehouse meeting, and Chan Wu's offer. Nadine's face went through every possible emotion as she listened. Fear when she understood how close her brother had come to death. Anger when she realized how long he had kept this from her. Disbelief when he explained what Chan Woo wanted. And finally, a deep, aching betrayal that made her want to scream. How could you be so stupid? The words came out harsher than she intended, but she couldn't stop them. How could you gamble with your life like that, after everything we've been through, after Mom? Terrence couldn't meet her eyes. I thought I could fix it. I thought if I just won enough, I could pay off all our bills, get you out of that club, give you the life you deserve. I don't want you to give me anything. Nadine slammed her palm against the table, making the coffee cup rattle. I want you to be safe. I want you to be alive. That's all I've ever wanted. They sat in heavy silence for a long moment. The morning light continued to brighten outside the window, indifferent to the crisis unfolding inside. Finally, Nadine spoke again, her voice quieter now. What exactly does Chan Woo want from me? Terrence explained the dinner proposal again. One dinner. Just one. If she attended and then decided she wanted nothing to do with him, Chan Woo would let her go. The debt would still be erased. Terrence would still be protected. Nadine laughed, but there was no humor in it. Men like Chan Woo don't just want one dinner. There's always something more. There's always another demand waiting behind the first one. I know. Terrence finally looked at her. His eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. I know this is impossible. I'll find another way. I'll take out loans, sell everything I own. With what credit? What assets? Nadine shook her head. You don't have anything left to sell, Terrence, and neither do I. Then I'll run. I'll disappear. They have photos of my apartment. Nadine's voice was flat. They know where I live. They know my schedule. If you run, they'll come for me to make you come back. Terrence's face crumpled. I'm so sorry, Dine. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. Nadine sat in silence for a long time, watching the sunrise paint new colors across the window. She thought about her mother, about the years Lorraine had spent waiting for a man who would never return. She thought about all the promises she had made to herself about never falling into the same trap. Tell me one thing, she said finally. Has Chan Woo ever hurt a woman? Do you know anything about how he treats the women in his life? Terrence hesitated. I don't know for sure. His reputation is ruthless, but all the stories are about business rivals, people who crossed him in deals. I've never heard anything about him hurting women. It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but it wasn't a death sentence either. Nadine finished her cold coffee in one long swallow. I'll do the dinner. Dine. But I need you to promise me something. She reached across the table and grabbed her brother's hands. If anything happens to me, you leave Miami. Forever. You don't look back, you don't try to avenge me, you just go and you build a new life somewhere far away from all of this. Promise me. Terrence's eyes filled with tears. I promise. That night, Nadine showed up for her shift at Eclipse Lounge with a new sense of purpose. She spotted Chan Woo immediately. He was sitting in his usual spot at the bar, his bourbon untouched as always, his eyes tracking her every movement as she walked across the floor. Instead of taking her position behind the bar and ignoring him like she usually did, Nadine walked directly toward him. She ignored the curious looks from the other bartenders. She ignored the whispered questions from the servers. She stopped right in front of Chan Woo and leaned across the bar so that only he could hear her voice. I'll do the dinner. Chan Woo's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his dark eyes. Something that might have been surprise, or satisfaction, or something else entirely. You have conditions, he said. It wasn't a question. I do. I'll explain them at the dinner. Before he could respond, Nadine straightened up and walked away to start her shift. She could feel his eyes on her back, burning into her like a physical touch. For the first time since she had met him, Nadine had the distinct impression that Chan Woo was not the one in control. And she intended to keep it that way. The dinner took place 3 nights later at a private restaurant on Fisher Island. Chan Woo had rented the entire space for the evening. The restaurant was called Amaranth, a place so exclusive that most Miami residents didn't even know it existed. You couldn't make reservations, you had to be invited. The chef had 3 Michelin stars and a waiting list that stretched for years. For tonight, every table sat empty except for one. Nadine arrived wearing a simple black dress that she had borrowed from her coworker Maya. It was elegant without being flashy, fitted without being revealing. She had done her own hair and makeup, refusing Chan Woo's offer to send a stylist. If she was going to do this, she was going to do it on her own terms. She expected to feel out of place among the crystal chandeliers and white linen tablecloths. She expected to feel small and overwhelmed by the obvious display of wealth. Instead, she felt angry. She was angry at herself for agreeing to this, for letting herself be maneuvered into a position where she owed something to a man like Chan Woo. She was angry at Terrence for putting her in this situation in the first place, for being so reckless with his life and hers. And she was angry at Chan Woo for thinking he could buy her time and attention with money. Chan Woo stood when she entered the restaurant, and Nadine had to admit, however reluctantly, that he looked stunning. His suit was midnight blue, perfectly fitted, and he wore it with the easy confidence of a man who had never worn anything less than the best. His usually slicked-back hair was slightly looser tonight, a few strands falling across his forehead. He pulled out her chair for her, and Nadine let him. Choose your battles, she reminded herself. Save your energy for the ones that matter. The meal began in silence. The chef had prepared a 12-course tasting menu, each dish more elaborate than the last. Nadine ate mechanically at first, barely tasting the food, her mind racing through exit strategies and defensive responses to whatever proposition Chan Woo was about to make. But as the courses continued, something strange began to happen. Chan Woo did not behave the way she expected. He didn't brag about his wealth or his power. He didn't make suggestive comments or let his eyes linger inappropriately. He didn't try to impress her with stories of his dangerous exploits or the enemies he had conquered. Instead, he asked her questions. He asked about her childhood in Little Haiti. He asked about her mother, and Nadine found herself telling him about Lorraine's laugh, about the way she used to sing while she cooked, about the church she attended every Sunday until she was too sick to walk. He asked about her dreams, not the polite, surface-level question that people asked at cocktail parties, but genuine curiosity about what she actually wanted from her life. Nadine told him about culinary school, about the restaurant she dreamed of opening someday, about wanting to create a place where people from her neighborhood could experience fine dining without feeling like outsiders. He asked why she seemed so unhappy, even when she was doing something she excelled at. Nadine stopped with her fork halfway to her mouth. What makes you think I'm unhappy? Because I've been watching you for 6 months, Chan Woo said simply. You're brilliant at your job. You're respected by your coworkers. You handle difficult customers with grace. But you never smile unless a customer is watching. You never seem to take joy in any of it. Nadine set down her fork. You don't know anything about me. I know more than you think, and I know that you deserve more than survival. Chan Woo's dark eyes held hers. You deserve to thrive. Halfway through the dinner, something shifted. Nadine had been keeping her walls up, answering questions with carefully measured responses, giving away as little as possible. But something about Chan Woo's relentless honesty was wearing her down. He told her something then that she had never expected to hear. My father was a monster, he said quietly. The candles on the table flickered between them, casting shadows across his face. He arranged for my mother to marry him when she was 18 years old. She had no choice. Her family owed his family money, and she was the payment. Nadine felt her breath catch. She spent 20 years trapped in that marriage, Chan Woo continued. 20 years of being treated like property, like a decoration, like something he owned rather than someone he loved. When I was 15, she finally found the courage to leave. She escaped back to Seoul, to family members who helped her rebuild her life. And your father? He died 3 years later, heart attack. Chan Woo's expression was unreadable. I felt nothing, no grief, no relief, just nothing. Nadine didn't know what to say. She had expected a gangster, a manipulator, a man who saw everything as a transaction. She had not expected this raw vulnerability. I built my empire in America because I wanted to be nothing like my father, Chan Woo said. I wanted to create something new, something mine, something that proved I was more than the blood I came from. He looked at Nadine directly, and the intensity in his gaze made her feel like she was the only person in the world. I would never force you to do anything, he said. This dinner was the only thing I asked for. After tonight, I will erase Terrence's debt regardless of your decision. You have no obligation to me. None. Nadine felt her carefully constructed walls begin to crack. Then why do all of this? Why buy my brother's debt? Why arrange this dinner? If you're not trying to force me into something, what's the point? Chan-woo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. The first time I noticed you were breaking up a fight between two drunk customers. They were twice your size, both of them ready to destroy each other and anyone who got in the way. But you stepped between them without flinching. You talked them down in 30 seconds flat. And when it was over, you went right back to making drinks like nothing had happened. He leaned forward. That was the moment I realized you were the strongest person I had ever seen, and strength is the only thing I respect. Before Nadine could respond, the night exploded into violence. The first gunshot shattered the window behind Chan-woo's head. Glass sprayed across the table like deadly rain. Chan-woo moved faster than Nadine had ever seen anyone move. One moment he was sitting across from her, and the next he had thrown himself over her body, shielding her from the chaos erupting around them. More gunshots, screaming, the thunder of boots on marble floors. Men in black masks stormed through what remained of the windows and doors. Nadine could see at least 8 of them, maybe more, all armed with automatic weapons. The Vega cartel had found them, and they hadn't come to negotiate. Chan-woo's bodyguards engaged immediately. The restaurant became a war zone, bullets flying in every direction, priceless artwork being destroyed, elegant furniture splintering under gunfire. Chan-woo pulled Nadine behind an overturned table, his arm bleeding from where broken glass had sliced through his suit jacket. He reached for his ankle holster and pulled out a handgun in one fluid motion. Nadine had never seen anyone handle a weapon with such casual expertise. "How many?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the terror coursing through her veins. Chan-woo listened to the patterns of gunfire, counting in his head. "At least 8 shooters. My team has 4. The odds aren't good." "Then we need to move." Before Chan-woo could respond, one of the masked men circled around their barrier. He appeared from the side, his rifle aimed directly at Chan-woo's head. His finger was on the trigger. Nadine didn't think. Her body just moved. She grabbed a heavy silver serving tray from the wreckage beside her and swung it with every ounce of strength she possessed into the side of the man's face. The impact made a sickening crunch. He went down hard and didn't get back up. Chan-woo stared at her with complete shock. Nadine picked up the fallen man's rifle. Her hands were steady. She checked the magazine with practiced efficiency, a skill she had learned growing up in Overtown, where knowing how to handle a gun could mean the difference between life and death. "I learned to fight before I learned to read," she said. "Now let's move." They fought their way to the back exit together. Nadine covered Chan-woo while he took down 2 more attackers with precise shots. Chan-woo pulled her through a kitchen full of screaming staff while she provided cover fire. They moved like they had been working together for years, each one anticipating the other's movements. 2 of Chan-woo's bodyguards were dead. The other 2 were covering their escape, buying them precious seconds. They burst through the back door into an alley where an armored SUV was waiting. June was behind the wheel, his scarred face set in grim determination. "Get in," he shouted. Chan-woo pushed Nadine into the back seat and dove in after her. June floored the accelerator before the doors were even fully closed. The Miami skyline blurred past them as they raced away from the chaos. In the back seat, Nadine's adrenaline began to fade. Her hands started to shake. She looked down and saw blood on her dress. She couldn't tell if it was hers or someone else's. Chan-woo was examining his wounded arm, his jaw tight with pain. Without thinking, Nadine ripped a strip of fabric from the bottom of her dress and began wrapping it around the gash in his forearm. Chan Wu watched her face as she worked. Why did you save me? Nadine tied off the bandage with a firm knot. What do you mean? You had a clear exit. When that man came around the table, you could have run. You could have left me to die and escaped on your own. No one would have blamed you. Nadine met his eyes. In the darkness of the SUV, lit only by the passing streetlights, he looked younger than he had in the restaurant, more vulnerable. I don't know, she admitted. My body just moved. Chan Wu was quiet for a moment. Then, that's the second time you've surprised me tonight. Only the second. I'm starting to think you'll never stop. June's voice cut through the moment from the front seat. We have a problem. Chan Wu's expression hardened immediately. Talk. The Vega attack wasn't random. Someone told them about the dinner location. There's only a handful of people who knew where you'd be tonight. A traitor. Yes, and that's not the worst of it. June glanced at them through the rearview mirror. They've put a $2 million bounty on the bartender's head. Nadine felt the blood drain from her face. What? Why? Because you survived, Chan Wu said grimly. And because hurting you hurts me. They figured out what you mean to me faster than I did. Chan Wu took Nadine to a penthouse in Brickell that wasn't registered under any name connected to his organization. The apartment took up the entire top floor of the building, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Biscayne Bay. It was decorated in clean, modern lines, all neutral colors and expensive art and furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. You can't go back to your apartment, Chan Wu said as he led her inside. You can't go back to work. You can't contact Terrence until we figure out who the traitor is. Nadine stood in the middle of the enormous living room, still wearing her blood-stained, borrowed dress, and felt her entire, carefully constructed life crumbling around her. I didn't ask for any of this, she said quietly. I know, Chan Wu's voice was uncharacteristically gentle. And I'm sorry. I thought I could control the situation. I thought I could keep you safe while I figured out how to make you see me differently. I was arrogant. You were. I know. They stood in silence for a long moment, the Miami skyline glittering indifferently beyond the windows. There are clothes in the guest bedroom, Chan Wu finally said. I had them brought here when I started planning the dinner. I wasn't sure if... He stopped, looking almost embarrassed. I wanted to be prepared for any scenario, including the scenario where I had to go into hiding after a cartel tried to kill us. That particular scenario wasn't in my original plans, no. Despite everything, the terror, the violence, the complete destruction of her normal life, Nadine felt her lips twitch toward something that might have been a smile. I'm going to shower, she said, and then I'm going to sleep, and tomorrow we're going to figure out how to fix this mess. Agreed. She started toward the hallway, then stopped. Chan Wu. Yes. Thank you for shielding me tonight when the windows broke. She paused. You could have protected yourself instead. Chan Wu's dark eyes met hers across the room. No, he said simply. I couldn't. Over the next 3 days, something shifted between them. Trapped together in the penthouse, while June and the rest of Chan Wu's loyal men hunted for the traitor, Nadine and Chan Wu discovered something unexpected. They actually enjoyed each other's company. Chan Wu cooked breakfast for her every morning. Not the elaborate meals that his private chefs could have prepared, but simple Korean dishes he remembered from his childhood. Kimchi fried rice, steamed eggs, simple vegetable banchan. He told her about learning to cook from his grandmother, about the years he spent in Seoul as a teenager trying to rebuild a relationship with his mother. Nadine found herself teaching him cocktail basics in return, using the fully stocked bar in his living room to demonstrate techniques she had spent years perfecting. Chan Wu was a surprisingly good student, patient, focused, genuinely interested in understanding not just what to do but why. He taught her self-defense moves in the afternoons, not the flashy martial arts from movies, but practical techniques for breaking holds and creating escape opportunities. His hands were gentle when they guided her movements, and he never let them linger inappropriately. And at night they talked. Chan Wu told her about growing up in Busan, about the poverty and violence of his early childhood, about the moment he decided that he would never be powerless again. He told her about his mother's letters. She still wrote to him every month, and he saved every single one in a fireproof safe in his office. Nadine told him about her father, about the years she spent watching her mother wait by the window, hopping to see his car pull up to their building, about the fury she had felt at his funeral. He had died in a shootout with a rival crew when Nadine was 17, and she had refused to cry because she refused to give him that power over her. She told him about raising Terrence after their mother's death, about working 3 jobs to keep them afloat while he finished high school, about the crushing weight of responsibility that she had carried for so long she had forgotten what it felt like to put it down. By the 3rd night, Nadine found herself looking forward to their conversations. She found herself laughing at his dry humor and catching herself staring at his profile when he wasn't looking. She found herself forgetting why she had ever been so determined to keep powerful men at arm's length. On the 3rd night, Nadine couldn't sleep. She wandered through the dark penthouse and found Chan Wu standing on the balcony, his hands braced against the railing, his eyes fixed on the glittering sprawl of Miami spread out below. She stepped out into the warm night air and stood beside him. "Can't sleep either." "I don't sleep much." Chan Wu didn't look at her. "Too many enemies, too much to lose." Nadine leaned against the railing, feeling the wind off the bay cool her skin. "Do you ever regret it, building all of this?" Chan Wu was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with something that sounded almost like grief. "Every single day." Nadine waited. "Money and power gave me everything I thought I wanted," he continued. "Respect, control, the ability to never be at anyone's mercy again, but it also gave me enemies on every side. Constant surveillance, the knowledge that anyone who gets close to me becomes a target." He turned to look at her then, and the vulnerability in his expression made her breath catch. "It gave me everything, except the one thing I actually wanted." "What's that?" "Someone who sees me as a man, not a boss, not a threat, not an opportunity." He shook his head slowly. "Just a man." Nadine stepped closer to him without fully deciding to. "I'm starting to see that man," she said softly. Chan Wu reached out and cupped her face in his hands. His palms were warm against her skin, his touch so gentle it made her heart ache. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "Once we cross this line." Nadine answered by kissing him first. The kiss started soft, almost tentative, as if both of them were afraid of breaking something fragile. But it quickly deepened into something urgent and consuming. Chan Wu's arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer, and Nadine let herself fall into the feeling of being held by someone strong enough to carry her weight. She had spent so long being the strong one, so long holding everything together. In this moment, she allowed herself to simply be held. The moment shattered when Chan Wu's phone exploded with an emergency alert. He pulled back from her, his expression shifting from tender to deadly serious in a heartbeat. He checked his phone, and Nadine watched the color drain from his face. "What is it?" she demanded. "June found the traitor." Chan Wu's voice was ice. "It's Min Jun, my cousin." "Your cousin?" "He's been working with the Vega cartel for 2 years. He's the one who told them about the dinner." Chan Wu looked up from his phone, and the anguish in his eyes made Nadine's chest ache. "He has Terrence. He's demanding that you surrender yourself by midnight, or he's going to kill your brother." Please do well to subscribe if you haven't done so, like the video, comment where you're watching from as well. Thank you. Min Jun had been part of Chan Wu's inner circle for over a decade. They had grown up together in Busan, 2 boys from nothing who dreamed of building empires. When Chan Wu had moved to America to establish his organization, Min Jun had followed without hesitation. He had been there for every major decision, every expansion, every war with rival organizations. He had also been secretly seething with jealousy the entire time. Min Jun believed he was smarter than Chan Wu, more ruthless, more deserving of power. He had spent years watching his cousin accumulate wealth and influence, convincing himself that it should have been his. That Chan Wu's success was just luck, just timing, just the universe making a mistake. 2 years ago, the Vega cartel had approached him with an offer. They would help him take over Chan Wu's organization. In exchange, he would share territory and tribute. Min Jun had agreed without hesitation. He had been waiting for the right moment to strike. And then he had discovered Chan Wu's weakness. A bartender from Little Haiti who had somehow captured his cousin's obsessive attention. A woman who could be used to destroy him completely. "I'm going to surrender." Nadine's voice was steady, but Chan Wu could see the fear in her eyes. "No," his response was immediate and absolute. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself." "He has my brother." Nadine grabbed his hands, forcing him to look at her. "Terrence is the only family I have left. I can't lose him." "And I can't lose you." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Chan Wu had never said anything like that to anyone in his life. He had never allowed himself to be vulnerable enough to admit that someone else's survival mattered more than his own. But it was true. Somewhere over the past 3 days, or maybe over the past 6 months, Nadine had become essential to him in a way he couldn't fully explain. "You told me about your mother," Nadine said softly. "You told me she spent 20 years trapped because no one gave her a choice. Don't make the same mistake your father made. The choice has to be mine." Chan Wu closed his eyes. Every instinct he had screamed at him to refuse. To lock her in this penthouse and handle Min Jun himself. To protect her from the violence that had defined his entire life. But she was right. "We do this together," he said finally. "You'll pretend to surrender, but you won't be alone. My most loyal men will surround the location. Min Jun won't see them until it's too late. And if it doesn't work, then I'll burn this entire city to the ground to get you back." Nadine smiled, and despite the gravity of the situation, there was warmth in her expression. "You're kind of intense, you know that." "I've been told." The exchange location was an abandoned warehouse near the Everglades, far from the city's glittering lights and watchful eyes. Nadine walked in alone, exactly as Min Jun had demanded. Her heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe, but she forced her steps to remain steady and her expression to remain calm. She had survived Overtown. She had survived raising her brother alone. She had survived 3 years of watching powerful men treat her like a decoration. She could survive this. The warehouse was massive and mostly empty, with only a few bare bulbs providing weak illumination. Shipping crates lined the walls, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. Min Jun was waiting in the center of the space. He looked enough like Chan Wu that Nadine's heart lurched for a moment, the same dark hair, the same strong jaw, but his eyes were different. Where Chan Wu's gaze held intensity and carefully controlled passion, Min Jun's eyes were flat and cold. Empty. Terrence was tied to a chair beside him. His face was bruised, one eye swollen shut, but he was alive. He was alive. "The famous bartender," Min Jun said, spreading his arms in mock welcome. "Chan Wu's little obsession. I have to admit I don't see the appeal, but my cousin always did have strange taste." Nadine stopped about 15 feet away. "I'm here. Let my brother go." Min Jun laughed. "That's not how this works. You're here to make Chan Wu suffer. Your brother is here to make you suffer. And once I've extracted everything I need from this situation, you'll both disappear into the swamp like so many others before you. Chan Wu will hunt you down. You know he will. Chan Wu will be too busy mourning his dead lover to hunt anyone." Min Jun pulled a gun from his jacket and aimed it at Terrence's head. "But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, I need you to call my dear cousin and tell him that you're dying. I want to hear his voice break." Nadine walked closer, her hands raised to show she was unarmed. "You're making a mistake." The only mistake was not doing this sooner. Min Jun's finger tightened on the trigger. "Now call him." Nadine looked at her brother. Terrence's one good eye was wide with fear, but when their gazes met, something passed between them. Trust. Love. The bond that had survived everything their difficult lives had thrown at them. Nadine reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device, the transmitter Chan Wu had given her before she left the penthouse. "You're right that I'm here to make Chan Wu suffer," she said. "But you're wrong about one thing." "What's that?" Nadine crushed the transmitter in her hand. "You're not the one in control." The warehouse erupted into chaos. Chan Wu and his men burst through every entrance simultaneously. The element of surprise was total. Min Jun's men barely had time to raise their weapons before they were cut down. But Min Jun was faster than they expected. He grabbed Nadine before anyone could reach her and pressed his gun to her temple, using her body as a shield. "Everyone stop," he screamed. "I'll kill her." The gunfire ceased. Chan Wu stood 20 feet away, his own weapon aimed at his cousin, his hands shaking for the first time in his life. "Let her go, Min Jun." His voice was steady, but barely. "This doesn't have to end this way." "This ends the way it was always going to end." Min Jun's arm tightened around Nadine's throat. "With you losing everything you care about, just like you made me lose everything by taking what should have been mine." "I never took anything from you. You were always part of this organization. You were family." "I was a shadow." Min Jun's control was slipping. "Standing behind the great Chan Wu while he took all the glory, all the power, all the respect. Do you know what that's like? To watch someone else live the life that should have been yours." Chan Wu's eyes met Nadine's across the tent space. She was terrified. He could see it in the rapid rise and fall of her chest. But she was also steady, focused, waiting. "I'm sorry," Chan Wu said. And he meant it, not because Min Jun's jealousy was justified, but because he hadn't seen his cousin's pain until it was too late. "I should have been a better leader, a better family." "It's too late for apologies." "I know," Chan Wu took a breath. "But it's not too late for you to walk away from this. Let her go and I'll give you 24 hours. Disappear. Never come back, I won't hunt you." Min Jun laughed bitterly. "You think I believe that? You're just trying to save your little bartender. Once she's safe, you'll destroy me." "Maybe, or maybe I'm tired of losing family." Chan Wu lowered his gun slightly. "Think about it, Min Jun, you can have your revenge and die tonight, or you can have your life and start over somewhere else. What's worth more?" For a moment, just a moment, Nadine felt the arm around her throat loosen slightly. Min Jun was actually considering the offer. Then his grip tightened again, and she knew the moment had passed. "I'd rather have my revenge," Min Jun said. Nadine made eye contact with Chan Wu one more time. She gave him the smallest nod. Then she went completely limp, dropping her full body weight toward the ground. Min Jun's grip slipped for half a second as he tried to adjust to her sudden movement. It was all the time Chan Wu needed. One shot, between the eyes. Min Jun dropped, and Nadine rolled away from his falling body. The aftermath was chaos. June rushed to untie Terrence while the rest of Chan Wu's men secured the building. The wail of approaching sirens echoed in the distance. Someone had heard the gunfire and called the police. Chan Wu didn't care about any of it. He crossed the warehouse floor in seconds and pulled Nadine into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "Don't ever scare me like that again," he said against her hair. "I mean it." Nadine laughed through tears she hadn't even realized she was crying. "I can't promise anything. Trouble seems to follow me everywhere." "That's fine." Chan Wu pulled back just enough to look at her face, his hands cupping her cheeks, his thumbs wiping away her tears. "I'll follow you everywhere, too." Behind them, Terrence stumbled over on unsteady legs. His face was a mess of bruises, and he was trembling all over, but he was alive. He was alive. "Dine," he started. Nadine let go of Chan Wu and threw her arms around her brother. "Don't," she said. "Don't apologize, not right now. We're alive, and that's all that matters." "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." "I know." Nadine pulled back and held his face in her hands, looking at him the way she had when he was a little boy and she was trying to protect him from the world. "But we're family. Family makes mistakes. What matters is what happens next." Terrence nodded, tears streaming down his battered face. "I'll get help, I promise. The gambling, all of it, I'll get help." "I know you will." And I'll be there for you, but I can't save you if you won't save yourself. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. Nadine hugged him one more time, then looked back at Chan Wu. The most feared man in Miami was watching her with an expression of such raw tenderness that it made her heart ache. Take us home, she said. 6 months later, Nadine stood behind the bar at Eclipse Lounge, but everything had changed. She was no longer a bartender. She was now the co-owner, with her name next to Chan Wu's on all the legal documents. He had made her a full partner the month after Min Jun's death, not as payment for what she had survived, but because, as he put it, she was the only person who ever saw his empire for what it really was. A lonely man trying to build something that mattered, she had teased when he said it. Exactly, he had replied, completely serious. Nadine had used her new position to start a culinary program for young people in Little Haiti. 3 nights a week, teenagers from her old neighborhood came to Eclipse to learn cocktail basics, kitchen fundamentals, and the business skills they would need to succeed in the hospitality industry. Several of them had already secured jobs at other clubs and restaurants across Miami. She taught cocktail classes on weekends, open to the public, affordable for everyone. The first session had been half empty. Now there was a waiting list 3 months long. She had dinner with Terrence every Sunday. He had been in recovery for 5 months, attending meetings regularly and working part-time at a community center in Overtown. He was slowly rebuilding his life, and for the first time in years, Nadine believed he might actually be okay. Chan Wu walked into the lounge on a Thursday night, exactly as he had done hundreds of times before. But tonight was different. He sat in his usual spot at the bar. The same spot where he had first tried to get Nadine's attention all those months ago. She looked up from the cocktail she was training a new bartender to make and raised an eyebrow. Mr. Kang, what can I get you? The formal address was a joke between them, now, a callback to all those nights when she had refused to acknowledge who he was. The usual, Chan Wu said, his voice completely steady. Which usual? Nadine wiped her hands on a towel and walked over to stand across from him. The bourbon, or me? Chan Wu reached into the pocket of his suit jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. The entire lounge went quiet. The staff, the customers, even the music seemed to fade. He opened the box to reveal a diamond ring that caught the amber light from the pendant lamps and scattered it into rainbows. I want both, he said, forever. Nadine looked at the ring. She looked at the man who had turned her life completely upside down in ways she never could have anticipated. She remembered the night she first ignored him at this very bar, convinced he was just another powerful man who wanted to own something beautiful. She had been wrong. Chan Wu didn't want to own her. He wanted to stand beside her. He wanted to build something new together, something that combined his strength with hers, his empire with her heart. She slipped the ring onto her finger. The lounge erupted into applause and cheers. Her coworkers were crying. Someone popped a champagne bottle. The new bartender she had been training looked like he might pass out from the excitement. Nadine leaned across the bar and kissed the most feared man in Miami. When she pulled back, she was smiling, really smiling, the way she hadn't smiled in years. Your bourbon is getting warm, she said. Chan Wu laughed. I don't care. You're the only thing I came here for. Sappy, she accused. Only for you. That night, after the lounge closed and the staff went home, Nadine and Chan Wu stood on the rooftop terrace of Eclipse, looking out at the Miami skyline. The city glittered below them, all those lights hiding all that darkness, all that beauty covering all that chaos. It was a city of contradictions, of second chances and last chances, of dreams realized and dreams destroyed. Are you happy? Chan Wu asked quietly. Nadine considered the question. She thought about everything she had been through to get here, the poverty, the loss, the years of struggling just to survive. She thought about her mother, who had died still waiting for someone who would never come. She thought about who she had been 6 months ago, a woman so determined to never need anyone that she had almost missed the love of her life. Yes, she said finally, I'm happy. even though you're marrying a gangster. Nadine laughed. Even though I'm marrying a gangster who makes me breakfast every morning and texts me heart emojis when he thinks his men aren't looking. Chan Wu groaned. I asked you not to tell anyone about that. I'm not telling anyone. I'm telling my future husband. She leaned into him, feeling his arm wrap around her shoulders. Besides, your reputation can handle a few heart emojis. My reputation was built on fear and respect. And now it's being enhanced by adorable domestic behavior. Nadine tilted her head up to look at him. I think you'll survive. Chan Wu kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips. With you, I'll survive anything. The wedding took place 3 months later, on a private beach in Key West that Chan Wu had rented for the occasion. Nadine wore a simple white dress that she had designed herself, inspired by the elegance of her mother's wedding photos from before everything went wrong. Terrence walked her down the aisle, his eyes filling with tears as he handed her off to the man who had saved both their lives. Chan Wu wore a black suit that probably cost more than Nadine's first apartment, but she had stopped being surprised by his casual displays of wealth. It was just part of who he was, along with the tenderness, the vulnerability, and the fierce loyalty he had shown her over and over again. Their vows were private, whispered between just the two of them while the ocean waves provided a soundtrack. But the kiss was public, joyful, and met with cheering from the small gathering of friends and trusted associates who had been invited to witness their union. June served as best man, his scarred face softened by something that looked almost like happiness. He had been Chan Wu's right hand for over a decade, but he admitted to Nadine that he had never seen his boss truly happy until she came along. You changed him, June said during the reception. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't change him, Nadine corrected. I just saw who he already was. Years later, when people asked Nadine how she ended up married to the most powerful man in Miami, she always told the same story. She told them about a Thursday night at a bar, when she was too focused on her work to notice the man watching her. She told them about refusing to be impressed by money or power, about treating everyone who sat at her bar exactly the same. She told them about her brother's mistakes and Chan Wu's unexpected mercy, about a dinner that turned into a firefight, about 3 days in a penthouse where they learned to see each other clearly. But mostly, she told them this. He didn't want to own me. He wanted to stand beside me, and that made all the difference. The bartender, who never fell for the Korean mafia boss, became the only woman he would ever love. And in a city built on money and power and broken dreams, they built something real together, something that proved love could grow even in the most unlikely places. Even behind a bar. Even in the shadows. Even between two people who had every reason not to trust each other. Even there. Especially there. Thank you for watching to the end. Please remember to click the subscribe button and make sure you like this video, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Thank you.